Part B on the architectural walking tour of Collingwood and Fitzroy, and we've had a whole bunch of new people join us, so let's go. Put into your maps Australian galleries, which is actually an amazing art gallery you should go to anyway. We're going to start here because you can actually see Stop B, C and D from this view line. But today we're talking about this building. It was designed by Wardle Studio. It's an apartment building, and we're looking at this one through the lens of why sometimes it's a good idea for architects to look to the historical uses of sites to keep the vibe of the suburb. The first giveaway that this is a building you should take note of is the fact that it's not an extruded rectangle. Let me explain. This building is the neighbor, and this is just like a classic build, straight up and down, as many apartments as you can fit in. And I'm not ripping on this, a real need in the market. But it does mean that when you see something like this, it's a really good tell that you should start wondering what the design team, client team, project team were trying to get at. Quick interlude here, but I swear it is part of the point. I've only lived in Melbourne for 4 years, and one of the things that I loved about moving down was how Collingwood compared to Carlton compared to South Yarra had totally different energies. They attracted totally different people, and it made the city experience really exciting. And so how this relates to this building is cities develop, they gentrify, they get denser, and that's actually a good thing for a lot of reasons. But how do you keep sort of like the essence of a suburb with each new building that goes up? And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. How do designers make sure Collingwood still feels like Collingwood, even though in probably 10 years' time, there's none of the original fabric left? One of the things that makes Collingwood so interesting is that it used to be an industrial suburb, and there's still heaps of these building typologies around. There's famous silo apartments, there's really big warehouses, and that built fabric of the suburb is what contributes to the vibe of Collingwood. Now, designers often refer to this concept as a sense of place. For the sake of this conversation and the internet, let's just stick with the word vibe. So Wardle thought, well, maybe we can create a shape that references the silos that used to be there conceptually. So if you're looking at this diagram, imagine all of these circles are silos, and the space left over on the inside is the shape of the building that got built. If we come back to the real thing, you can begin to imagine how the form of this building is referencing the past of Collingwood. And while it might not be obvious to everyone that that's what this building is doing, by using this technique of looking to the past of what used to happen on a site, it means you would get a different response each time. So what you looked up in Collingwood would be different to what you looked up in Carlton, would be different to what you looked up in South Yarra. And so whether or not you actually pick up that this is about silos is less relevant, as it is that buildings begin to take on a form that would only exist in that area. The other thing they've paid a lot of attention to is this brick base. Now, this blonde brick, that's a building that was previously there before the new development. It's been retained. And then there's a second type of brick, which is this deeper reddy brown. And where they meet, it's like chalk and cheese, which I wouldn't be surprised is kind of jarring for most people. Another quick interlude. It's not cool to make fake old stuff. And so when a designer is tasked with the challenge of trying to respond to a piece of sort of like character or heritage fabric that they've been required to retain, they have to do something that's harmonious. So it makes sense to do brick and brick, but show really strongly that this is old and this is new. I personally love this. I think it makes walking around your cities like this living historic timeline, but that's why that's happening, so that they're not faking old heritage materials. The other really successful thing that this brick base is doing is just providing a slight buffer to the lower levels and the street view. It's still got cutouts so that if you're on your apartment balcony, you're peering out through this framed view with all this dripping greenery, but it is just giving a little bit more privacy to those lower level apartments. And it's creating some really interesting kind of unique spaces between fabric and with This is such a long video. I could keep talking about this, but I'm going to cut myself off there. To recap, today we talked about how architects can look to the past as a tool to come up with new ideas that keep and protect the vibe of a suburb. And that's referred to as a sense of place. I might wrap part C and D into one video because I actually see them as a bit of a precinct. But judging by how long this one took, no promises. Well done if you stayed till the end.